everybody, quick video update before the sun goes down. Once again, that seems to be a story of my life, but someday we're gonna have light, so I'll be able to give you updates later in the evening. But that's okay, I'm getting a little worn out anyway. So I am in the bedroom that I'm gonna be in for a while, and once again, I've done actually some other work in other parts of the house today, but this is what I'm gonna show you so that tomorrow hopefully I'll wrap some other things up. So if you'll remember, the newly found, rediscovered doorway have cool things for that in mind, and I'm not going to share those just yet, but needed to get this into a situation where I could live with it for the winter in case I couldn't get everything buttoned up. So now I'm in a situation where I can put plastic and insulation and framing and all that good stuff. Likewise, same over here. This door will go away because it historically was not there. So that's totally fine. This was the door to Kim's closet. And then of course this door will also go away. We're gonna transplant it downstairs, at least temporarily, because I desperately need a lot of downstairs exterior glass doors. So that is all well and good. One of the reasons why I started on this little adventure was I was trying to figure out what happened with the electrical wiring, how they got it here, and finally was able to kind of discover some of that. So if you'll notice, this used to be two closets where I was standing here, and now it is not, which is pretty exciting. So you can see on the other side, this back side of the wall, there's a hole. That's where the wiring went in. And what they did was they actually took this base out and they had a baseboard up against it. So structurally that was okay to do, and that makes actually really good sense. We're going to take out some of the wiring on this wall, but cool to actually see how all that worked. I can actually access it, put a little bit of insulation in there as well. So I am going to take advantage of that. You can also see on the other side, they were a little bit reckless, but they cut in, and that's how they got all the wiring in for lighting in this closet. And then of course up here, lighting in this closet, which I'm still not sure what was going, maybe it was two closets at one point, I don't know. They would have been terrible closets, but anyways, this tells me that the wiring that served this area came from the ceiling to the attic space above, which is awesome because that's what we're about to do. It means we can basically tie everything together and just start pulling it through. You can also see an example of that because here is the wire that's coming through, and then it runs through this wall, and excuse the mess, but I've been moving a lot of things around to be able to get this stuff done. And so it feeds the light switch that's on the other side of this, what's left of this wall. So yeah, obviously took out some walls today, which feels really good, and it was very surgical, not like what you would see on HGTV. You have to be very gentle and patient, but I was able to get a lot of this up with very little damage to the wood floors. So we will have some repair to do, but they've already done enough of disrespecting this floor, so I'm going to try and do the best I can to save it. I got a little bit of a snag here when I reached this wall. Wish it would have come out easier and to do that gently. Unfortunately, this other side has two layers of plywood and then a sheet of this plastic vinyl flooring adhered to it. So I need to pull that up so that I can get onto the other side of this baseboard, and then the sole plate here, which is basically the two 2x4s that you see, because I want to very gently pry everything up and not damage things as much as possible. So that's going to take a little bit longer, a little bit of a bummer, but this at least gives me a good concept of what this room feels like in size and dimensions and how much light it gets. Today's kind of a bad example because it's been overcast most of the day, but still, it's at least progress. So now I am starting to think about how to fix it, which is also a really good feeling. And what I understand, and I'm hoping that Mike watches this, I know Mom has told me, but from what I understand, there was a door here, and then there would have been two windows, and then another two windows here. And then this area would have been, I don't know if it was like a sleeping porch or like a sunroom or a multi-season room. Anyways, I have some plans for it. But that definitely introduces light inside the center, the core of the house. So that's kind of cool. This is going to be my dressing room, you guys, because I need to be spoiled after all of this. So that's pretty exciting, but it could eventually be a bedroom too if that ever, the next family member wants to do that. So what I'm hoping to find is kind of what you see behind me. I'm hoping that when I take the rest of the gypboard off of these walls, that I will find shiplap and little remnants of wallpaper. And here's a good example of years and years of how that went together. And our original walls don't have plaster because of the location where we are here in Northeast Texas. And so they basically would have had their shiplap walls, which are great structurally, and then they just put some paper on top of it to decorate. So I actually kind of dig this pattern here. This would have been right over the header of the doorway. I think that's kind of neat. And this like super retro golds and yellows, kind of creams sort of thing going on. And then on top of that, something that I'm assuming is probably from the late 50s, early 60s. It's a floral motif with pink and blue flowers. So really kind of intricate, and I thought that was kind of fun to make it a really sweet space. So I'm hoping I'll find something like that here. Likewise, over on the other side, I have found little remnants of things as well. And then I'm not a huge fan of taking this stuff down off of the ceiling. It's just not a fun thing to do. But anyways, I got to pull that down, and then I'll probably find some more of that as well. Now, I think, and again, I need some confirmation, but I think the doors and windows were mirrored onto the exterior wall as well. So there would have been a door here, 2 windows, and then 2 windows here. And if you really stand here and stare at it, it kind of does make sense. So do you see these 2 layers of shiplap down here at the bottom? These couple of pieces would kind of line up with the windows here, right? So kind of the same situation is going to be my guess. And then there would have been standard dimension windows. They probably like pulled this piece out. I think it actually matches up with this piece down here. So that kind of tells me what to aim for when I reframe the walls. But interestingly enough, you can also see another clue of that. They pulled a plastic vapor barrier in through the other side of the wall. I don't know if that was intentional or what, but maybe it's a happy accident. That actually puts the vapor barrier on the correct side for a building here in the southeast. Or in the south, compared to up north. A lot of times, some of that building science originally told us to put plastic on the inside walls, and what that would cause in the south is a lot of mold and mildew. So kudos to them for doing that, which is great. But unfortunately, there is some significant damage too. There is some termite damage, and then of course water damage from roof leaks and things like that. From what I hear from Mom, this area always leaked. So first of all, we got to fix that, and fingers crossed, lots of prayers. We don't have anything like that going on right this minute. That doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't small openings in the roof when the house shifts throughout the seasons, but let's hope not. And we'll work on some flashings and things to stop that from happening in the future. But there is damage. I will have to go in and replace some of this. That'll be a day or 2 setback. But I do have, I think, the materials to do it now, which is good. And the reason why that happened was down below us, there was an area where a carport was actually draining into the side of the house for a significant period of time. So all of that was wet and rotted, and termites need water to survive. And so they just took their little wet path all the way to the top of the house. So we knew that going in when I bought the house, but still I want to plan for that and prevent that from happening in the future. Another way that I want to prevent that, just as added security, is I've been wanting to go back with pressure treated lumber, even though we're in an interior environment here inside the house. And normally I would just go place an order at the lumber yard or the big box store and get me some 2x4s and make that happen. But this year is different. It's 2020, and sometimes getting supplies, as you've seen, has been a big challenge. So another reason why I hate doing demolition sometimes is I get things nice and clean, and then I create more waste that I have to take months and months to get rid of. So This will probably take me several weeks to get out of the house and trash. Normally I would take lumber like this that's not pressure treated. I would take it and it would go to the burn pile. It would probably be part of the homecoming bonfire and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if they're having one this year, but because it's 2020, this may actually be the best lumber that I have access to as far as something that is straight. So I do have some pieces of historic lumber, some historic 2x4s, and that is my other option, but I really don't think I'm going to be able to get good quality lumber right now if I just went to the store and ordered it. That is really disappointing. So I have some decisions to make and some things to think about because my historic lumber is a finite resource and I will eventually run out of it. But one of the values of going back with a historic lumber, it's certainly not pressure treated, but it is old growth lumber. And so the fibers within the lumber themselves are just much tighter. They're more dense, which means it's much more resistant to rot and rodents and all that kind of stuff. So I got some decisions to make. So I'm going to think about that. But in the meantime, just being able to get this space clean, being able to lay eyes on it as the space that it once was is pretty cool. Now I get to start thinking about what I'm going to do with the space. Mike brought me some old wrought iron, tubular iron beds that were originally in this space. So that's pretty cool. I'm really excited. We had some and then I got to add to that collection, and so I think I'm going to put a couple up here. I think that would be a really neat space if it's got windows on both sides, and it's kind of a cozy little area, maybe for kids to have a sleepover or a place to hang out. The other idea is I'm gonna need a sewing room. Those of you guys that know me know that when I'm not doing demolition and carpentry and all those things, I actually do like to do a little bit of sewing, and this house is gonna need a lot of it. So if you can imagine all of the curtains that have to go on in this house, a lot of upholstery, some things I will outsource, some things I will do myself, and maybe even some fabric wrapped walls. So that is going to be kind of intense and going to need that relatively quickly. So that might be one of the things that I set this room up for, at least for a while. Anyways, I'm really excited just to have access to the sunlight and a space that now I can work on kind of getting clean and less dusty. And I can also wire it when the electrician comes and get my insulation and stuff going on. So you guys have a terrific rest of your day. I am hoping that I'm not going to be either sore or sick from too much dust today or anything like that, just like I was last week. So fingers crossed I survived the night and I can show you some really cool stuff tomorrow. Take care. Have a great night.